Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are cracking open something that I think a lot of us are fascinated by, even if we don't always want to admit it.
Mhm.
And that's the idea of the criminal code. We often think of crime stories as these really simple games of cops and robbers.
Right, good guys versus bad guys.
Exactly. Black and white, there's a chase, there are handcuffs, case closed. But the stack of materials we have in front of us today, it paints a much messier, much more human picture.
It really does. It's this complex web of loyalty and class warfare and the incredibly heavy price of living the life.
Live alive, yeah.
When you really peel back the layers of high-level crime fiction, and specifically the source material we're looking at today, you realize it's rarely about the adrenaline of the crime itself. It's about the sociology of it all.
The sociology, explain that a little.
It's about the rules people live by when the official laws of society just don't apply to them. And what's fascinating is that sometimes those unwritten rules are actually stricter, more binding than the ones the rest of us follow.
That's a great point. And to explore this, we are looking at The Final Score by Don Winslow. Now, for those who might not know, Winslow he's a titan in this genre.
Oh, absolutely. He's the guy who wrote The Cartel, The Force, Seven.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah.
You go to him when you want the really granular, almost journalistic details of how crime actually works.
For sure.
But this book, The Final Score, it's interesting because it isn't one of his massive 800-page epics. It's actually a collection of 6 distinct short novels.
That's right. And for our deep dive today, we're going to focus on 4 of the most vivid narratives in this collection. The title story, The Final Score, then The North Wing, The Sunday List, and finally, True Story.
I'm really excited about this.
What's so great about this collection is how Winslow uses these shorter formats to just punch really hard. He gets right to the point. And he's exploring different subgenres here.
Yeah, it feels like a whole tour of crime fiction.
It is. You've got the classic heist thriller, then you pivot to a really gritty police procedural, then there's this surprisingly emotional coming-of-age drama, and he even throws in what feels like an oral history of the mob.
So what's our mission today? What are we trying to unpack here?
I think the mission of this deep dive is to really get into how he uses these different lenses to explore the gray areas of morality. We aren't just looking at plot points and, who robs who. We're looking at the soul of these characters, what makes them tick.
And the setting is a huge part of that soul, isn't it? We're kind of bouncing between 2 very different Americas.
Oh, absolutely. The geography is a character in these stories, 100%. In California, which is where the title story is set, you have these wide open spaces, the ocean, the border dynamics. It feels really expansive, but the characters are completely trapped.
And then you jump to Rhode Island?
And Rhode Island is it's claustrophobic. It's the opposite. Everyone knows everyone. Your family has a reputation that goes back generations. And you have this constant friction between the townies and the wealthy summer people.
Old money versus no money.
Precisely. And that friction, that class divide, it drives so much of the conflict we're going to talk about.
And we're going to see these recurring motifs popping up. Right.
All over the place.
Yeah.
You'll see this theme of the aging professional versus the young screw-up. The crushing, just overwhelming weight of family obligation, and this central idea of the exit. How do you get out of the life with your soul or, at least your bank account intact?
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the title story, The Final Score. It feels like the classic one last job setup, but Winslow twists it almost immediately. So, introduce us to our protagonist, John Hyland.
John Hyland is such a great character because he just completely defies the stereotype of the desperate criminal. He isn't some frantic, drug-addled guy, robbing liquor stores with a stocking over his head.
Right. He's not panicked.
Not at all. He's an aging professional. The text makes a point of how he dresses: linen suits, no tie. He's disciplined. He's a student of military history. But despite all that polish, he is in an incredibly desperate situation.
Okay, so what's the situation?
He's nearly 60 years old, and he's facing a mandatory minimum of 25 years to life in prison.
25 years? At 60, that's effectively a death sentence.
It is. He even calls it the final score because he knows deep down he's never coming out. He's been found guilty of a big armored car robbery because his driver, a guy named LeBlanc, turned state's witness against him.
He's out on bond.
He's out on bond until his sentencing, but he knows the clock is ticking. He has about a month, maybe a little more, before he goes inside forever. The 3 strikes law in California is just breathing down his neck.
And most people in that situation would run, right? That's the logical move. You grab a fake passport, you head to a non-extradition country.
Find a beach in Brazil or Southeast Asia.
Yeah. But Highland doesn't. And this is the first big twist. Why doesn't he run?
And this is where that code we talked about comes in. It's all about his wife, Jewel. He refuses to run because of her. To get the money for the bond, to get these last few weeks of freedom, he had to put the equity of their house up as collateral.
Ah, okay, so if he runs.
The government takes the house. Jewel, his wife of decades, is left completely destitute. She's stuck by him through everything, including a prescient 8-year prison stretch, and he just loves her too much to leave her with absolutely nothing. His whole mission is to secure her future before he accepts his own fate.
Wow, that is. It's heartbreakingly practical. It's almost romantic in a really twisted sort of way.
It is. He's completely resigned to dying in prison, but his one goal is to make sure she can, and this is a quote from the text, play pickleball and go bird watching.
He wants her to have the quiet retirement that he can never have. But there's a bit of an ego to it as well, isn't there? He has this incredible sports analogy he uses to justify what he's about to do.
Oh, the Super Bowl 51 analogy. Yeah, this is absolutely key to understanding Highland's psychology. He's constantly referencing the Patriots' comeback against the Falcons.
The 28-3 game.
The 28-3 game. The Patriots were down by 25 points with only about 17 minutes left to play. It looked impossible. I mean, the odds were statistically almost zero. But the final score was 34-28. Patriots win.
So how does he apply that to his life?
He tells his partner, Jamal, that it doesn't matter how bad it looks in the middle of the game. It only, and I mean only, matters what the score is when the clock runs out. And right now, he says he's down 28-3. He needs a miracle comeback before that sentencing hearing.
That mindset is just fascinating. It's a masterclass in compartmentalization. He's ignoring the utter hopelessness of his current situation to focus entirely on the end result.
He has to. It's his only way forward.
So he needs a massive amount of money, and he needs it fast. And the target he picks sounds, on paper, completely insane. He decides he wants to rob a place called the Castle. Tell us about this place.
The Castle is this huge, remote Indian casino located east of San Diego. And Winslow describes it as a fortress. I mean, truly a modern fortress. It's on a reservation, which gives it a certain autonomy. There's one road in and one road out.
So it's a choke point.
A perfect choke point. On top of that, it had this state-of-the-art facial recognition technology called NRI.
No.
It stands for non-obvious relationship awareness. It doesn't just scan your face. It tracks who you talk to, who you sit with, and builds a web of your connections inside the casino. It's constantly learning.
That's terrifying.
And there's more. It has redundant power generators, so you can't just cut the lights. The security guards are basically private military contractors, heavily armed. It is, for all intents and purposes, unrobbable.
But Highland picks it for a very specific reason. It's not just a casino, is it? It's something else.
No. And this is a detail that Winslow pulls right from reality. The Castle isn't just a casino, it's a laundromat. A massive one.
The cartel.
For the cartels. The text estimates that they send about $60 billion a year in drug money back to Mexico, but they need a way to clean it first. So cartel members go to the Castle, they play high-stakes games that are essentially rigged, they win big, and the casino cuts them a legitimate clean check. The duty cash is now clean money.
So Highland knows that if he robs this place, he's stealing dirty money.
And that's the key. He knows the casino can't call the police. You can't file a police report for stolen money that legally shouldn't even exist. It's the perfect victim.
There's a great line he uses to describe how the cash gets in. The lettuce comes in with the lettuce.
That's the line. It's such a perfect, succinct piece of criminal slang. It means the cash is being delivered in food trucks, hidden in boxes of produce, and it enters through the kitchen.
So it bypasses all the main floor security.
It completely bypasses it. The armored cars at the front door are a decoy. The real money, the cartel cash, is coming in through the back door, disguised as supplies.
So Highland has his target, but it's still a fortress. How does he even begin to plan to crack it? This is where it gets really interesting, because he doesn't try to overpower them, he outthinks them.
And he uses history to do it.
Right.
He's a reader, as we said, of military history, specifically World War II, and he uses this great U-boat analogy to explain his strategy to his partner Jamal. He says that the German U-boats were so successful not because they hunted the entire vastness of the ocean, that's impossible, but because they hunted the shipping lanes.
The routes the ships had to take.
The predictable routes. He says you don't attack the vault, that's the ocean, it's too big, too well defended. You attack the shipping lane. And in the casino, the shipping lane is the corridor between the kitchen delivery dock and the soft count room where the money is tallied.
That is just brilliant. It's all about identifying that one single point of vulnerability. But of course, he can't do this alone. Let's talk about the crew he assembles. It's a fascinating mix of generations, and the dynamics are really tense.
They really are. First, you have Jamal. Jamal is his rock. This is the brother dynamic. They've done time together. They trust each other implicitly. Jamal is the only one who knows the full stakes of the mission. That Highland is going away for life no matter what happens. He's the anchor of the crew.
Okay, so you have the loyal partner. Who's next?
Then you have the inside woman, Summer Redbird.
I loved her character. She adds this whole other layer of like corporate disillusionment to the story. She's not just in it for the money.
Not at all. She's a brilliant executive at the casino, a member of the tribe the casino is on, but she's hit a hard glass ceiling. She's smart, she's capable, she brings in huge amounts of revenue, but she knows that in the eyes of the white corporate guys from Vegas who run the place, she's just a token diversity hire.
And her boss is a piece of work.
Her boss, Gordon Matthews, is a total sleaze, and he's also the cartel's main liaison inside the casino. So Highland recruits Summer not by offering her money, but by recognizing her unhappiness. He just asks her a simple question. Are you happy? And in that moment, she realizes she isn't. She wants to break the glass ceiling by shattering the whole building.
It's revenge.
It's revenge on the system that undervalued her. The money is just a bonus.
Okay, so you've got the professional, the loyalist, the inside woman, and then there's the muscle, Colt Mays.
And Colt is the chaos element. He's the son of an old associate of Highland's, and he represents this major generational clash. Highland and Jamal are these cool, collected pros in their linen suits. Colt is a hyper-aggressive surfer kid who rides a high-speed motorcycle and thinks the uncles, as he calls them, are too old and too soft.
So there's friction there.
A lot of friction. He wants to go in guns blazing, whereas Highland wants surgical precision. Highland knows he needs him for the physical work, for the intimidation factor, but he's also a huge liability because he's so impulsive and unpredictable.
Speaking of surgical, the tech they use is wild. They don't just wear ski masks. They use 3D printing to fool a retina scanner.
It's such a great detail that shows how modern crime has evolved. They have to get into that secure corridor, and it's protected by a retina scanner that only Gordon Matthews, Summer's sleazy boss, can open.
So how do they get around that?
They get a high-resolution photo of Matthews from Summer. They create a 3D model of his face, and then they merge it with Highland's own facial structure to create this hyper-realistic mask. It's like something at a mission. Impossible, but it's grounded in the reality that biometric security is only as good as the data it's reading. They essentially spoof the machine's reality.
So the heist goes down, they get into the kitchen, they get into the corridor, and they get the money way more than they expected, right? Like $10 million.
A huge score. But the getaway is where the plan really becomes genius. They don't just run, they get trapped, the cartel's security team is closing in, and they need to create a distraction. A massive one.
And this is what Winslow calls the great Castle Cash giveaway.
This is the climax, and it's just brilliant. They have these huge bags of cash, but they can't just walk out the front door. So Highland and Jamal start throwing handfuls of cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars out onto the main casino floor.
Just imagine that scene. I mean, the chaos. Gamblers, drinkers, even the security guards, everyone just stops what they're doing to scramble for money.
It's weaponized greed. Highland knows that basic human greed is a much stronger force than professional duty. The security guards aren't going to shoot at the robbers when there are $100 bills literally raining from the sky. It creates this perfect human shield of chaos that allows them to get to the roof.
And on the roof, there's a helicopter waiting. But this is where the story delivers the real emotional punch. The chopper can't take everyone and all $10 million. It's just too heavy.
Right. And this was Highland's plan all along. This was his checkmate move. He knows he's dead anyway, meaning he's going to prison for the rest of his life. So he loads Jamal, Summer, and all the money onto the helicopter. And he stays behind.
Wow.
He sacrifices his own physical freedom to guarantee his wife's financial freedom and to let his entire team escape cleanly.
So he walks back down into the casino he just robbed.
He strolls right through the chaos he created, finds a quiet spot at a bar, orders a drink, and waits to be arrested. But he won, didn't he?
He absolutely won. He controlled the exit. He goes to prison not as a victim of the system, but as a legend. A guy who pulled off the impossible score and saved his family.
The final score was Highland winning, even if the clock ran out on his freedom. It just completely reframes what winning looks like in the criminal world.
That is such a powerful story to start with. Okay, let's pivot. We're leaving that high-stakes, almost noble thief world of California and heading east to the damp, gray, and morally complicated reality of Rhode Island. Segment 2, The North Wing.
And this story, this one hits hard. It shifts from that noble thief we just saw to the compromised cop. We meet Doug Pritchett. He's a good guy, a clean-cut, ambitious local cop. His dream is to be a state trooper. He believes in the law.
And then there's his cousin, Chrissy.
And Chrissy Pritchett. Yeah, if John Hyland is at the very top of the criminal food chain, Chrissy is at the absolute bottom. Winslow has this incredible phrase to describe him. He says Chrissy lives a minimum life.
Minimum life. That phrase just sticks with you.
It really does. Chrissy is a screw-up. He drinks too much, he reads books, but has no real ambition. He just floats along. And one foggy night, he makes a terrible decision. He drives drunk, he crosses the center line, and he hits a car head-on, killing a 20-year-old college student named Sarah Gaines.
And this isn't just a tragic accident in the narrative, it's a collision of social classes.
100%. Sarah Gaines comes from an old-money Rhode Island family. They are the pillars of the community, the bankers, the lawyers, the country club members.
And the
Pritchetts are the service class. They're the mechanics, the fishermen, the guys who plow the driveways of people like the Gaineses. So the tragedy just magnifies that divide. Sarah had this bright, promising future. Chrissy had nothing, and now he's taken her future away. The community outrage is massive, in part because of who died.
So the legal situation is grim. Chrissy pleads guilty. He's looking at a long stretch in the ACI, the Adult Correctional Institutions. But the real threat isn't the time, is it? It's the environment inside.
That's the terror of it. Chrissy is small, he's soft, he's terrified. And everyone in town, including Doug, knows he will not survive general population Gen Pop. He will be abused, he will be raped, or he will be killed. It's presented as a certainty.
And this just tears Doug apart.
Completely. As a cop, he hates what Chrissy did. He sees the destruction caused by drunk drivers all the time. But it's family. He promised his aunt, Chrissy's mother, that he'd always look out for him. He's trapped.
So Doug, the good cop, starts looking for a solution outside the law. And the only solution he can find is something called the North Wing. What is this place?
The North Wing is, on paper, a protective custody unit within the prison. But in reality, it's run by the mob. It's basically a social club for wise guys inside the ACI. The mad guys, the high-level associates, they all stay there. They get good food, they're safe, they run the show. It's a sanctuary.
So if Doug can get Chrissy assigned to the North Wing...
Chrissy survives his sentence. But you don't just, fill out a form for that. You can't just request a transfer.
You have to ask a favor. And Doug, the straight arrow cop, goes to ask a favor of the local mob royalty.
He approaches Gino Battaglia, a guy he grew up with, whose father, Bobby Battaglia, is the consigliere for the area's big crime boss, a man named Carlo. Doug sets up a meeting with Bobby. And this scene, by the pool, it's pivotal.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Bobby Battaglia is tanning by his pool, total mob boss cliche. And when Doug makes his request, Bobby initially refuses. He plays dumb. He says, I don't know any Carlo. He's testing Doug. He wants to see just how desperate this good cop really is.
He wants to see how far he'll bend.
Exactly. And Doug passes the test, or, fails it, depending on your moral perspective. He breaks down. He begs. And at that moment, Battaglia knows he owns him. He offers a deal.
And it starts small.
It always starts small. That's the insidious nature of corruption. Battaglia asks Doug to run a license plate for him. Just one plate. It's illegal for a cop to use the database for personal favors, but it seems like such a minor thing compared to saving his cousin's life.
So Doug does it. He crosses the line.
He does. And as soon as he does, the trap springs. Battaglia owns him. He tells Doug, we got you on tape doing it. And then he immediately ups the ante. He says, we'll get your cousin into the North Wing, but here's what you're going to do for us. You're going to join the state police.
Wow. Not just be a local cop. They want him to level up.
Because a local cop isn't that useful to the mob. They want a mole inside the state police, where the real investigations happen.
So to save his cousin from a hellish prison experience, Doug has to agree to become a sleeper agent for the mob.
That's the deal. And the deep tragedy of the story is that Doug becomes a fantastic detective. He gets into the state police, he rises through the ranks, he gets married, has a kid, gets awards, he has the career he always wanted, but he's perpetually dirty.
Living a double life.
A complete double life. Every once in a while, the phone will ring, and he has to tip off Battaglia about a wiretap or a pending investigation. He is just slowly, piece by piece, losing his soul.
And the ending of this story, it is one of the most perfectly constructed, ironic twists I have ever read.
It's a complete gut punch. Chrissy serves his 7 years in the North Wing. He's protected, he survives, he gets out of prison, moves down to North Carolina, gets a quiet job, and lives a safe, anonymous life. He gets the exit that Doug paid for with his integrity.
But what about Doug?
Years later, long after Chrissy is out, Doug gets caught. His own mentor in the state police calls him into his office and plays him a tape. A wiretap of his own voice, leaking information to the mob. Doug is arrested, he's disgraced, and he's sent to prison.
And because he was a dirty cop who spent years providing services to the mob?
He's assigned to the North Wing for his own protection.
Oh my God.
He sacrifices integrity, his career, and ultimately his freedom to buy that sanctuary for his cousin. And in the end, he is the one who has to live in it. It's a perfect closed-loop tragedy. He saved his family, but he lost himself completely. The prison he built for his cousin became his own tomb.
That is heavy. I mean, it really forces you to question where that line is between family loyalty and personal morality.
It's an impossible question.
Let's take a breath and move to something that feels, at least initially, a little lighter, but it still has a really sharp edge to it. Segment 3, the Sunday list.
This story takes us back to 1970s Rhode Island again, but with a totally different feel. It's a coming-of-age story. We meet our narrator, Nick McKenna. He's this incredibly responsible, hardworking teenager who is basically the only adult in a chaotic household of children.
And the children are his parents.
The children are his parents, John and Jackie. They are these aging hippies who just refuse to grow up.
They are such incredible characters. I mean, they're almost caricatures, but they feel real.
They really do. They have a live-in guru named Baba who performs an exercise called Salutation to the Sun for 7 hours a day.
7 hours.
7 hours. They preach peace, love, and anti-capitalism. But the reality is they are profoundly selfish and neglectful. They're so focused on their own freedom and enlightenment that Nick has to be the one worrying about paying the bills.
But Nick has a hustle, doesn't he? The Sunday list. Explain how this works.
So Rhode Island in the 70s had these strict blue laws. You couldn't buy liquor on Sundays, but of course people still wanted to drink. So the local package store, Tillman's, had this secret list of trusted customers. If you were on the left, you could call in an order on Sunday morning, and Nick would deliver the booze to your back door in his beat-up Chevy Corvair.
It's illegal, but the whole town is in on it.
The whole town. It's a community secret.
And I love the geography of his delivery route. It's another tour of that same class system we saw in the North Wing.
It is. He starts at the fishermen's shacks down by the water. Then he goes up to the wealthy summer homes on the cliffs, and then over to the houses of the university professors. He sees everyone's secrets. He sees the respectable pillars of the community getting drunk at noon on a Sunday.
And the central conflict of the story centers on one specific customer, Terry Faraday.
Terry Faraday is set up as the clear antagonist. He's a wealthy, loud, rude summer resident from New York. He's abusive to Nick, he treats him like a servant, and he never, ever tips.
He's the embodiment of that greedy capitalist that Nick's parents are always railing against.
He is. And to make the whole situation even worse, Faraday's wife, Margot, is constantly sexually harassing Nick. She does this whole Mrs. Robinson thing, coming to the door in a bikini, making suggestive comments. It's humiliating for Nick. He dreads going there every single Sunday.
But he keeps doing it because Nick is saving every penny from this job for one thing, college.
College is his escape. He has $4,000 saved up, which was a fortune in 1970. He's ready to escape his crazy family and start his own life. And then the ultimate betrayal happens.
The money's gone.
He goes to the bank one day and the account is empty. His mother, Jackie, withdrew every single cent. She stole her own son's entire college fund to run off to California with Baba the Guru to start an ashram.
It's just infuriating. The very people who preach love and community rob their own son blind. Nick is completely devastated. He thinks his future is over. His only options are working at the fish factory or getting drafted and sent to Vietnam.
And this is where Winslow just flips the entire script in the most beautiful way.
Yeah.
Nick is completely broken. He has one last Sunday delivery route to do before he quits. He gets to Terry Faraday's house. He's got nothing left to lose, so he tells Faraday he can't go to college because his parents stole his money.
And Faraday, this rude, abrasive jerk.
He reveals that he already knows. The local town banker, who's also on the Sunday list, had told him what happened.
So what does he do?
He hands Nick a wad of cash for the liquor delivery. Nick counts it and says, "Mr. Faraday, it's $20 short." And Faraday says this incredible line. He says, "Consider the 20 tuition." And then we find out that Faraday has already gone to the university and paid Nick's entire first-year tuition in full.
That moment, I mean, that gave me chills. The villain of the story saves the day. Why? Why does Faraday do it?
And this is the core lesson of the story. Faraday does it because he respects work. He tells Nick he saw him hustling every single Sunday, rain or shine. He saw him taking the abuse from him and his wife and still doing the job with professionalism. And in Faraday's code, a worker deserves a chance.
Dress for the job you want.
That's the lesson he gives him. It's a complete rejection of the lazy, selfish hippie philosophy that destroyed Nick's savings, and it's a validation of the work ethic. The parents who claimed to love him sacrificed him for a whim. The capitalists who treated him like dirt invested in his future.
And the story ends with this lovely little coda, right?
Yeah, it flashes forward to 2021. Nick is now a successful man. He eventually bought back the farm his parents let fall into ruin, and when a young delivery kid comes to his door with a package, he tips him heavily. He completes the circle.
It's a beautiful, bittersweet story about how the people we expect to protect us sometimes fail us the most, and how help can come from the most unlikely places.
It really is. Story about found family, in a way.
All right, let's head into our final segment, which is a total change of pace. True story. Winslow just throws the narrative rulebook out the window for this one. It's not a story in the traditional sense. It's just pure dialogue.
That's right. Feels like we, the reader, are just sitting in the next booth over at a diner, eavesdropping on two old wise guys just trading war stories.
And these stories are hilarious.
They're hilarious because Winslow is stripping away all the glamour of the mob completely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in something like The Godfather, the mob is operatic and majestic.
It's Shakespearean.
Here, they are incompetent. They're idiots. These stories are all about the screw-ups.
We have to start with the story of Lenny No Socks.
It's classic. Lenny has to go to a sit-down, a big meeting with the boss, Carlo. And he shows up, and he's not wearing any socks.
And that's it. That's the story.
That's the story. One of the other guys, an underboss named Bobby Batts, becomes obsessed with it. He just keeps asking, why no socks, Lenny? Why no socks? It turns out Lenny just left the house in a hurry and forgot them, but because of that one tiny, meaningless detail, he is forever known as Lenny No Socks. He just shows how petty and childish these supposed tough guys can be.
And then there's the story of Irish Jerry. This one had me laughing out loud.
It's a masterpiece of circular logic.
Yep.
So Irish Jerry owes money to a mobster named Fat Tommy. He needs to pay him back or he's in big trouble. So Jerry decides to rob a local strip club to get the cash.
Okay, seems straightforward enough for a criminal.
He cracks the safe, gets all the money, and then proudly goes and hands it all to Fat Tommy to pay off his debt. The problem.
Let me guess. The strip club he robbed was owned by someone in the mob?
It was owned by Bobby Batts, Fat Tommy's boss.
Nope.
He paid his debt with money he had just stolen from the very organization he owed the debt to. It's a complete farce. Fat Tommy has to give the stolen money back to his boss, Bobby Batts, but he can't admit that his guy, Jerry, was the one who stole it, or he'll look like a total idiot. So Bobby Batts just keeps the money, and Fat Tommy has to eat the loss. Irish Jerry accidentally played them against each other just by being completely oblivious.
It's just a recurring theme of total incompetence. There's a story about a boat, right?
Oh, Lenny's boat. Lenny No Socks again. He buys this big, fancy boat with money he skimmed from a state construction job. He takes it out on the water with a buddy and some female companions who are definitely not their wives.
A classic mob story.
They get drunk, and Lenny ties the boat up for the night to what he thinks is a permanent mooring buoy. It's not. It's a lobster pot buoy.
Which is not designed to hold a 50-foot boat.
Not at all. A storm comes up in the night, the rope snaps, and the wind drags the boat and beaches it right in front of a whole row of expensive summer houses. Lenny wakes up on the sand, hungover, with the Coast Guard knocking on the hull.
And his wife finds out.
Of course she finds out. And this leads directly to the nail gun incident. Lenny's wife, after hearing about the women on the boat, confronts him at a construction site with a nail gun.
Oh, wow.
And she shoots him in the foot. And the two guys telling the story in the diner are seriously debating whether the physical pain of getting shot in the foot with a nail gun is worse than the emotional pain of your wife cheating on you. It's just this perfect blend of absurd, violent, and hilarious.
But there's a sting in the tale of true story, too, right? The source text kind of cuts off, but it ends with a story about a hedge fund guy building a castle-like mansion that encroaches 5 feet onto a public park.
That's right. And why did it happen? Because Lenny No Socks was the contractor, and he completely screwed up the measurements. It's the ultimate example of their corner-cutting incompetence. These guys aren't masterminds. They are barely functioning adults who happen to be dangerous.
So, after all this, what does it all mean? We've looked at the noble heist, the tragic cop, the coming-of-age betrayal, and the bumbling mobsters. When we synthesize these four very different stories, what's the common thread?
I think it really comes down to two things that connect them all: money and the code. In every single one of these stories, money is the engine. It's the driving force. Hyland needs it for his wife's retirement. Nick needs it for his college tuition. Doug needs it, or at least he thinks he does, to buy his cousin's protection. Irish Cherry needs it to pay off a debt. Money is the tool.
But the code is how they use that tool.
Exactly. The code is the moral framework. Hyland has a strict code of honor. He sacrifices himself for his family and his crew. Doug tries to have a code of family loyalty, but in his world, that code corrupts him completely. Terry Faraday, the supposed antagonist, has a code of work ethic that ends up redeeming him.
And the bad guys in True Story.
Their code is a joke. It's a series of petty, childish rules about not wearing socks and who has which ridiculous nickname. It's a parody of a real code.
It also feels like a deep commentary on the illusion of control.
That's a great way to put it.
John Hyland thinks he can control the heist, and he mostly does, but only by accepting that he can't control his own freedom in the end. Doug Pritchett thinks he can control his involvement with the mob, just this one favor, but he loses control completely and instantly.
And Lenny No Socks can't even control a boat.
Right. It's the tragedy of the life, isn't it? You think you can just dip your toe in. You think you can use the criminal world to solve one specific problem, like Chrissy's safety or a tuition bill. But the current is just too strong. Once you step in, it takes you where it wants to go, not the other way around.
That's perfectly said.
I have to say, Winslow's mastery of tone here is just incredible. He moves seamlessly from this heart-wrenching tragedy in the North Wing to what is basically slapstick comedy and True Story, but it all feels like it's taking place in the same world.
It's because he respects the characters, even the idiots. He understands that for them, in their moment, these problems are the entire world. Whether you're facing life in prison or you're facing your wife who is holding a nail gun, the stakes feel absolutely real to the people involved.
Suppose as we wrap up this deep dive into Don Winslow's The Final Score, I want to go back to Hyland's philosophy and leave our listeners with this thought. He says, "It doesn't matter how bad it looks in the middle. It only matters what the score is when the clock runs out."
It's a really seductive idea. It's the ultimate justification for the ends justify the means. But we have to ask, what is the score? Is it just the money? Is it physical freedom? Is it having a clear conscience?
That's the real question.
Doug Pritchett saved his cousin, but he ended up in prison with a ruined reputation. Did he win? Hyland secured his wife's future, but he died in a cage. Did he win? It's not so simple.
And that brings us to our final provocative question for you, the listener. Let's put you in the shoes of Doug Pritchett. If you were a cop, sworn to uphold the law, and a member of your family did something terrible, killed someone, and was now facing what amounted to a death sentence inside prison, would you cross that line? Would you compromise your soul to save them?
Where does that intense family loyalty end, and where does your own personal morality begin?
It's the question that must keep Doug Pritchett awake at night in his cell in the North Wing.
And I think for most of us, it's a question that's a lot harder to answer than we'd like to admit.
A huge thank you to Don Winslow's collection, The Final Score, for giving us this incredible material to chew on. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the very gray areas of the human heart.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.